Welcome to 20 Minutes with Mike, brought to you by Legal Ease, the ultimate guide on how to survive a law practice. The Chastain Law Office of Gold River, California, and Barking Frogs, your best source for race swag. Go bigger and louder. Now here's your host, Mike Chastain.
Hey everybody, welcome to 20 Minutes with Mike. Really excited to have you here today. I've got what I think is going to be a very interesting show. I'm going to be talking about the lessons that I've learned through adventure racing over the years, and tell some stories about some of the adventure races that I've been involved in and some of the things that I learned. I just have to say though that I just did this show and I forgot to record it. So, I got a test run. I guess that was the good news. But it's one of those things when you do these things live and I'm doing the lights and I'm doing it all, because technology is such that you can. But I just thought it was funny. I just finished doing it and I clicked on the thing and I realized I didn't record it. But in any event, so let's get started. All right. For those of you who aren't familiar with adventure racing, let me just give you kind of a real quick history. Modern adventure racing, I mean, there's always been races that were, long distance things over the years, but real modern day adventure racing started in 1989 with the Raid Gular in New Zealand. And shortly thereafter, Mark Burnett, who, you guys know from The Apprentice and other things, uh, caught wind of it, was very interested in it, and started doing the Eco Challenge. And that started in 1990. And he put races on all over the world. They were on the Discovery Channel. A lot of people became exposed to adventure racing that way. That's how I became exposed to it. The very first time I'd ever heard of adventure racing or ever seen anything like that, I'm watching the Discovery Channel and I'm like, jaw drop. These people are nuts. What the heck are they doing? This is craziness. And one of the things that as I look back in hindsight, what I realized is that there was a handful of people who were racing, who were racing. But the rest of the people were like on this fast pack camping trip. They'd be carrying extra leather boots and they'd be carrying, cooking gear and tents and sleeping bags and all of this stuff. They'd have these giant backpacks. I'm like, oh my goodness, those things weigh a ton. No wonder they're moving so slow. At the time I didn't really realize that, but as I got involved in adventure racing, I realized that weight made a big difference in how fast you could move. So, in any event, Eco Challenge came out, and then over time, other races started to develop. So, Primal Quest became a very big race here in the United States, and the top people in the world started doing that, and then. Other races, smaller races started, money started coming into the sport. And so Balance Bar started putting on races. They put on sprints, like 3-4 hour sprints and 24-hour races. And then other groups like Todd Jackson started putting on the Big Blue, which still exists, but not in the way that it did in those days, because there was money in it and there was actual, prize money. And, it wouldn't be unusual to go to a race and there'd be 100 teams. The very first adventure race I ever did was a balance bar. Actually, at that time it was run by High Tech, but it was here at Lake Folsom, and there must have been 1,500 people there. And on top of just a gazillion people there, all the best racers in the world were there, because there were money prizes. People were actually making a living doing this, racing around in the woods and getting checkpoints and doing all the stuff that was going on. And then other events started going on. And this is just West Coast. There was the Cal Eco, and there was Shooting Star, and there was the NorCal Adventure, all of these other races, and they were all great. And I really felt like I was involved. I missed the whole Eco Challenge thing. I mean, I didn't get involved until after that, but I was involved in the heyday of certainly the shorter 8 to 24 hour races, and I did a lot of them. And one year I did 13 races in one year. Um, and it took me a while. I mean, the first 24-hour race we did, I did up in Kirkwood. And with all due respect to my teammates, it was a complete debacle. We didn't know what we were doing, and we didn't even come close to finishing. And then I did a balance bar 24-hour down in Santa Monica, and made a huge navigational mistake and didn't finish that one. So the first 24 hours I didn't finish, but I was like, damn it, I'm going to get one. And then finally I finished one, and I haven't not finished a race since then, save a race in New England. And it wasn't that we didn't finish; we just ran out. I mean, we didn't finish. We didn't get across the finish line in the allotted time. Um, but I never quit a race after that. After those first two, I never quit a race after that. So I was very lucky. I mean, there was a period of time I always consider myself a semi-professional adventure racer because I actually won money. I certainly won a ton of swag. I didn't buy shoes for years. I have a storage unit full of backpacks and all other kinds of gear that you would win. Um, and then at some point in about 2006 ish, 2007, the money just disappeared, and the sport changed. So that was really unfortunate. And while the sport's still going on, the number of teams just aren't there. The last, I think, when I did Primal Quest Montana, there was 84 teams, I want to say, somewhere in that neighborhood. And the last Primal Quest, I think there was 15. So the sport's changed, which is unfortunate. And I hope it gets a rejuvenation with younger people. I think a lot of folks like myself who first got involved. I mean, at 60, almost 61 now. It's not as alluring to me. The adventure itself is alluring, but the training not so much. But uh, when I first started, I didn't know that much. I didn't understand the relationship between weight and speed. And I would carry just, I had a backpack full of what ifs. What if it rains? What if it snows? What if, there's a lightning strike? What if somebody breaks a leg? And so I'm carrying all of this gear, and I've got this like incredibly heavy pack. And over time, I began to learn, yeah, you don't want a what if pack. Now, it has come back and bite me in the butt a few times. I got stuck in a snowstorm up in the Sierras without a jacket. That was not good. That's a whole nother story. I think I told a few episodes back, but for the most part, that's worked out. You want to travel light and fast, and I went from basically being a survivor, just wanting to finish the damn race, to elevating to racing. And that kind of culminated in a race up in Red Bluff, one of the big blues. Now, um, a good friend of mine, John Mazakowski, he and I started racing together, and we decided that we were going to do all of the big blues. And at that time, I think there was 7 a year. And just from logistical perspective, getting your boat and all your gear and getting there in the hotel room and dealing with all that, we decided to race as a 2-man team. Now, one of the things when I talk about adventure racing to people who don't know about the sport, they'll often say, well, it's like a triathlon, right? And there are some similarities. A triathlon is swimming, biking, and running, right? And adventure racing is also multi-sport. It's trekking or running, mountain biking typically, and then some kind of water, whether it's kayak, canoe, paddleboard, uh, riverboard. I mean, there's lots of different. Sometimes we swim, but that's really where the similarities end. In a triathlon, it's a marked course with aid stations, and it's an individual sport. It's you against the clock, or it's you against another racer. Adventure racing is not a marked course. Navigating is one of the biggest and most important skills. You've got to find your way to the various checkpoints. There's no aid stations that help you along the way. There's no line on the ground that tells you where to go. You got to figure that out. But even more importantly, it's a team sport. So the classic adventure racing team is is a 4-person co-ed team. Many races, and the Big Blue allowed this, allowed John and I to just race as a 2-man team, and we did that. And we'd be racing against the 4-person teams and the 3-person teams. But it's a team sport, and even with 2 people, there's a dynamic to the sport, right? Your partner is feeling, better than you. Um, you know, will he wait up for you? Will he help you? We had tow systems where we, tow people to help them along. I remember we had a race where one of our teammates got altitude sickness, and if you've ever had altitude sickness, not only do you feel just horrible, but it's like breathing through a straw. And here we are, we're trying to run, we're trying to be competitive, we're trying to pass that guy in front of us, and our teammate is like dying here. So how do you help them? You take their pack, you do what you can to help them out. um, Mechanical problems. What do you do if somebody's bike breaks down? I remember I had the great pleasure of meeting Roy Malone, who's lives up in El Dorado Hills near here. He was actually the first person I'd ever met that had done adventure racing, kind of spurred me on after I'd seen on the Eco Challenge. And he told me a story about when he was in Fiji doing the Eco Challenge, he lost a shoe somewhere along the line. And I'm like, well, Roy, what did you do? He goes, well, what I did is I took a sock and I took some duct tape, and maybe he put, I don't know, something else on there. But basically, he built a shoe out of the sock and the duct tape and trekked through the jungle for however far until he found the shoe. Or found, got to a place where he could get another shoe. I mean, one of the great things that you have to learn about being an adventure racer is how to improvise. You don't quit just because you lost a shoe. You've traveled all around the world. You're competing with a team. There's 3 other people counting on you, and you're going to quit because you lost a shoe? No, you don't. I know at XPD, it's not quite as dramatic as losing a shoe, but we showed up on this trek that wound up being about 48 hours long, and I had no pants. I did the entire trek in my underwear. Now, you know, they were those, kind of long, they look almost like bike shorts. They weren't quite bike shorts. It was underwear, but it wasn't quite that dramatic. But still, I remember looking in the gearbox. It's like, damn it, I don't have any shorts. And and I stopped around for a minute and I was like, well, okay, let's think about this. I got shoes, and I thought back about Roy. At least I'm not making a shoe out of a sock and duct tape. So, you learn to improvise. All right, so I'm walking in my underwear in the wilderness. Who really cares, right? So, in any event, you learn to improvise. But one of the things is when John and I were racing, and we were having some success, and we were getting better. We were learning how to move more quickly. It's not just about being fast, but it's about being efficient, moving through a transition area quickly, making good decisions. And we did a race up in Red Bluff, and it was one of these things where we were jockeying back and forth with all these other teams. And I remember at one point, we were at the last checkpoint, and if you looked at the map, it was like an out and back. And as we were riding, we were on the bikes at that point. As we were riding to that checkpoint, this other team of people that we knew, a team called Thin Air, was coming the other way. So they'd already gotten the checkpoint and they were heading towards the finish. And I looked at it and I was like, we're about 10 minutes behind them. And so when we got to the checkpoint, I remember I really looked at the map really closely and I saw this little tiny thin line. And I'm like, John, I think there might be like a goat trail or something that'll shortcut this. And we're like, well, let's do it. So, because you never know, it might wind up in the middle of a swamp and be a complete debacle. But we tried it out and we're riding down this little goat path, and all of a sudden we pop off into the road and we almost T-bone into Thin Air. And the look on their face, they were like shocked. And we're like, go. And we rode like a bat out of hell, jockeying back and forth, changing position and drafting each other. And we rode like madmen across the line first. I mean, that was so exciting and so unexpected, to be honest, because there were some really good teams there. 4 teams finished within 4 minutes. It was the closest adventure race I'd ever been involved in. But that was the day for us that we realized, 1, you never give up. 2, um, uh, you can be competitive. I mean, I was in my 40s and still I was competing against younger people. You can be competitive. It's not just about being fast, it's about being smart and making good decisions. And I converted, at least in my mind, that, I'm not just here to finish, I'm here to race. Now, the next year, traveled up to Canada to do my first big race, a 6-day race called Raid the North. And I thought I was ready. Oh my goodness, that was a complete debacle. And if you check some of my other podcasts out, and some of the stories talk about, Brian having this cloud descend on us on this snowy ridge, and then trying to go down this couloir, and Brian slipping. He's fallen. He's flying down. He falls into a crevasse. We have to use a human chain to get him out, and then Melissa starts sliding, and I grab her. We're flying down the couloir. I mean, I laugh about it now, but oh my God, literally, we almost died. That was supposed to be what we thought would be about a 17-hour trek. Wound up taking us 54 hours. We were out of food. We were, half hypothermic. It was a nightmare, and I almost quit adventure racing. But at that point, but what was funny is after we finished the race, and we did finish, we got to the finish line. We're sitting in the Vancouver airport, and we get an email that says, registration's open for Primal Quest Montana. And I look at Brian and I look at Will, and I'm like, yeah, we're in. And what was funny is the gal that was on our team, Melissa, she'd already agreed to race with somebody else, so she didn't even give us a chance to talk her into it. But we went to Montana and we did a Primal Quest for 10 days. One of the most amazing experiences ever. And later on, I got opportunities to travel in other parts of the world, down in Mexico and Australia, did the XPD. So I learned a lot of lessons about just about life, dealing with teams, dealing with people, dealing with stress, in some pretty extraordinary situations. The other thing that was really cool about it, I'll say, is that you could sort of expand, because I was riding a lot. I was riding my bike a lot, and I was a mountain. Not only did I love riding mountain bikes, but single speed in particular. I started doing 24-hour solo mountain bike races, and raced at 24 Hours of Cool, which is just up here. Big race. Some really big names showed up, and did really, really well. Won the Masters division by over a lap. I think I finished fourth overall, at 48, which I was pretty, pleased with, given the people that were there and people riding in geared bikes. Um, Wound up doing longer races as well, doing 24-hour Rogaine, which is a big orienteering thing, national championship up in Oregon. I mean, so adventure racing really gave me the opportunity to do a lot of really exciting things. And then I could bring those lessons back to my law practice. The ideas of tenacity, never giving up, always looking for a way to find a solution, and being realistic about your situation. So there's optimism, but there's realism too. Sometimes you just got to be honest about what really is going on. And that has been huge, and it's really helped me in my coaching as well when I work with other lawyers and other people on business and law issues, which is a service that I offer. And you can find all that on MikeChastain.com or MichaelChastain.com. They go to the same place, and you can see what we're offering there. You get these lessons have really made a big difference in teaching me, and giving me the ability to relate stories that I think help other people understand, the importance of tenacity. I remember one time John and I were racing in one of the big blues, and we wound up on top of Mount Watson when we were supposed to be on top of Mount Pluto. And John was like, and I'm like, John, we don't know where the other teams are. And so, we just beat feet down and we got up to the other mountain, and it turned out we wound up winning by like 45 minutes, because we didn't give up. We never gave up on ourselves. And well, it was my fault that we wound up on the top of the wrong mountain, but we never gave up. And so, important things. So in any event, the beep just went off. That's our 20 minutes. I always promise you guys I'm going to try to finish up within 20 minutes. I'm going to do that. Just remind folks, check out. There's more information about adventure racing on my website. There's more information about the coaching that I offer. Check it out on michaelchastain.com or mikechastain.com. All of these videos wind up on there as well as other places. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope that this has been useful. It's certainly been fun for me. So, I guess that gets us 90% of the way. And just always remember, right? Be grateful for what you have and be willing to work for what you want. All right, take care. We'll see you next time. Bye.